we're coming back for our fourth and final segment of the Safari Seminar.
She was my favorite person, except for she was supposed to name her second child after me, and then rename them the whole deal. So I've decided that of the two of them, that Caitlin is my favorite person.
So
because she let me perform her wedding ceremony.
Yes. So you're going to name your firstborn after him. Okay.
Hi everybody, I'm Patty Geisinger, head of the social media team. I will begin the cyber stalking of you on Facebook. If you or your wife or your husband or your child has a Facebook page, I will find you because we take a lot of photos in the race and in the prelim, and we like to tag you so that you can see them in one place. That being said, I am part of the secretary for the Texas Canoe and Kayak Racing Association, and we do a newsletter 3 to 4 times a year. And in our one newsletter that goes out before the safari, we do a special article on the novice teams. So if you're planning on racing novice, you may get an email from me with a little questionnaire just asking how your preparation's going and what was your goal. You know, are you raising money for something? Just to get to know you. Because, and that's why I push the forums, because we won't get to know you if we don't see you, or if we don't see you online or whatever. So I just want some of the more experienced paddlers to get to know you. So when you get this email from this strange woman asking you to fill out a form, it's me. I'm not scary at all. And I'll make sure you can see the newsletter when it comes out. If you finish, when you finish, you're all going to finish, I'll send you a follow-up just asking about your experience. Because we do love to hear the stories, and there's going to be great stories with Jake as evidence. So anyway, I'm Patty Geisinger. So follow the Texas Water Safari on Facebook, where you'll be able to see the live stream from today. And there's also the Texas Water Safari history page. Link to that if you want to look at some of the history or old pictures and things like that.
All right, so to close out the day, we're going to do probably mostly this. Kristin's been a team captain now for how many times? So she can't, enough that she can't remember. And we didn't always keep good records of how often people have been team captains. So she's actually been a team captain more times than I've done the water safari, if that gives you an idea of how valuable a good team captain is. So she is, in my opinion, the best. I mean, other than I was pretty damn gross when we did the girls last year.
You were like figuring splits the whole time.
I know, I did really well too. So, listen to what she's got to say. I mean, again, even solo racers, nobody does the race by themselves. That team captain is an integral part of your experience, and you can't do it without them. So you may as well make sure that they're doing it the best that they can do, and you'll appreciate them even more for it. Somebody might need to know where I'm at. Oh, yeah.
I think we're missing 2 of the sign-in sheets. Are they floating around? Awesome, great. All right, team captains. We've kind of interspersed some of the discussion today about kind of what team captains need to do and be aware of, but I just kind of want to focus specifically on team captain job. Like Jay said, a racing team cannot finish if they don't have a team captain. Team captains have to sign their teams through at the checkpoints. If you don't sign your team through at the checkpoint, you could get your team disqualified. Okay, so don't be the reason that your team gets disqualified. Probably racers are your #1 priority during the race. If you're not out there to have a party or, I know, wait till the end. Wait till your team finishes to have a party. Don't have it on Saturday, drinking and driving. So I'll talk a little bit about that later. The first day of the safari is crazy hectic. Last year we started the most votes we've ever had. It was, I think, 170. Crazy. Traffic was crazy at some of the places. So just be prepared that it's going to be a little wild. it'll, as the day goes on, as you get into Saturday night, Sunday, the course, everybody kind of starts spreading out and it'll calm down a little bit. And there'll also be more time in between the bridges and checkpoints. Let's see. Make sure that you participate in practices. And as we covered earlier, you're not in the boat, you're on the land. You need to learn the driving course on how to get to all the bridges and the checkpoints. On the website, there's a link to the driving guide. Print that out, become familiar with it, know how to get to the bridges. Don't ask your racers, they're paddling from bridge to bridge. They're not driving from bridge to bridge. I know how to drive to these places better than Jay, because he's always in the boat paddling. You need to know how to get there at night on the lower river. Things look a lot different in the dark. And some of them you're looking for a little county road to turn off on. So make sure that you drive the course and that you're familiar with the handoff locations. Know the rules. Read back through these rules again. You don't want to be the reason that your team gets disqualified. So make sure you're very clear about handoffs. Littering can get you disqualified. Make sure you're getting everything out of the river that's thrown at you. Now, as I said earlier, team captains are the only ones that can do actual handoffs with the racers. But if racers start throwing jugs and stuff out of the boat, anybody can get stuff once it's come out of the boat. These right here sink super fast in the river. So try to make sure that when your team, if you use these, that they're kind of more handing off and not just chunky, because they will sink, and good luck trying to find them. Let's see. Talked about not trespassing, making sure if you're going to be on private property that you've received permission, that you can do a switch of a team captain. Recommend having 2 team captains if at all possible, and then you can have as many people helping you as you want to, wash jugs, fill ice packs, anything like that. I always think it's a good idea to have at least 2 vehicles per team as you're following down. You never know what's going to happen. On Sunday, things are closed. If the vehicle breaks down or something like that, just be prepared. You need to take care of yourself as a team captain, because you're the one that's driving these roads. You're going to have to be the brains for your team later on as they start hallucinating. So sleep when you can. I usually try to get some sleep around Hoheim and Cheapside. It just kind of depends on the speed of how your team's going. That's another reason to go on practices with your team, so you can kind of figure out what their speed's going to be. There's a link on the website to like a mileage calculator, and you can kind of plug in like how fast they're going and kind of see like what time of day they're going to be at different places, so that you can gauge how fast they're going. Make sure that you yourself are eating and staying hydrated during the day. It's especially on Saturday, because things are so hectic and you're probably feeling a little rushed, especially if it's your first time. You're going to be a little nervous about making sure you do the handoffs well, and you can kind of just forget. It just kind of can get rushed. Like I said, stay sober throughout the race. You're driving. Don't put yourself and others in danger. Quite a while back, there was one support team. They thought it was a party. They drank everywhere. Thankfully, there weren't any wrecks or anything, but it was a whole party the whole way down the race. Don't be that captain. So sometimes people always ask me, what type of vehicle is the best to be a team captain? We have a pickup truck. That's usually what I take. Also kind of depends on how many people are in your boat. But the thing with the car, especially if you try to go down to the checkpoint at Swinging Bridge, it's rough. I mean, it's a cow trail. So a higher profile vehicle is better. There could be mud, don't just assume because if you have like a four-wheel drive vehicle that you can drive anywhere and you're not gonna get stuck. That mud that comes up below Hoheim, I've seen plenty of four-wheel drive vehicles stuck in that mud down there. And Hoheim, Jay affectionately calls it the armpit of Texas. It's not one of the most pleasant handoff places that you're gonna do. It's a very steep bank. We have a road that you have to kind of gingerly get yourself down and all of your equipment. So this is a physical job. It's not that they're just gonna paddle up to the bank and you're gonna stay all nice and dry and you're gonna handle their stuff. You need to be out in the water or in the mud. You know, I've been sunk up to mud in my thighs, especially at Swinging Bridge. It depends on the water level. If it's higher water, you're gonna get more dirty. Lower water, it's a little easier. But it is physical because you're gonna be, you know, doing the ice packs, the jugs, and then you're gonna be carrying that up and down the banks. So while they're out practicing, you need to be making sure that you're in shape and can handle the physical requirements of being a team captain. Let's see. Oh, parking. This was really crazy last year with the number of boats that we have. So as you're learning the bridges, think about if there's 100 cars, 200 cars at some of these places. It can be a little tricky getting in and out. So I always make sure that I'm backing in to a place so I can pull straight out. I'm always thinking about what's the easiest way to leave this checkpoint to go to the next one. Because I've been multiple times I pulled in thinking, oh yeah, this is gonna be easy to get out, or oh yeah, I can just back right out, no problem. Not the case. So I always think, how are you gonna get out of here? Let's see. Like I said, watch out for mud. Don't drive through water. Like if we get rain, that you know how deep it's gonna be. Like I said, I've been doing this since 1996. I did manage to get the vehicle stuck about 3 years ago, and I wasn't going to tell Jay he was racing, and got it all taken care of before they got there. And I was like, he didn't need to know that until way later. We had some other family things going on. I was thinking about that, and I was like, I just need to get here, and just drove off and got stuck. And then at one point, one of my nephews said, oh, well, Aunt Kristin, blah, 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 blah. And he's, I'm like, it's fine, we'll talk about it later. So be, just drive through the water unless you know how deep it is. Keys. Team captains are always locking their keys in their car. I recommend having a hide key on your vehicle somewhere. Just so that you can get back in. That happened to me during the junior safari one year. We got a new truck, and the locksmith they changed something, and he didn't know how to get in. So they were having to call Dodge and all sorts of stuff. So always have a hide key. Or if you've got multiple vehicles, give a spare key to the other ones and swap. Try to park your vehicles next to each other if you have kind of split the supplies that you're carrying, so that you're not having to kind of walk back and forth. Practice actually with your team doing handoffs. Some teams kind of depend, this is a race. Some teams get excited as they're coming in that first time, and they're coming in at full speed. They're not thinking about, I need to back off and slow down so my team captain can get the water, food, and ice in the boat. I mean, they can chunk stuff out, as they're coming through, but they need to slow down enough or stop so that you can get items in the boat. So talk with them about that. Kind of practice what a handoff looks like. If you've got 2 people in the boat, you have 2 team captains, you may want to set it up where you are always supplying, the person in the bow, and the other team captain is always doing the person in the stern. So, or if it's a larger boat, like when I do a 6-man boat, we've got co-captains like, okay, I've got seats 1 through 3, you've got, 4, 5, and 6, that type of thing. So, talk about what your strategies are. We already talked about water temperature, handoffs. When you're doing a handoff, talk to your team beforehand about what information they want. Do they want, do they want splits? Like if you're racing in the novice class, do they only want splits for other boats that are novices? Do they want anybody who's like 2 boats ahead of them or 2 boats behind them, no matter what class it is? That type of thing. What information do they want? Know the race course. We've got the race description. Kind of know what's coming up. Hey, you're going to have a portage up here, or getting ready to get into the log jam section. That type of thing. If they are starting to hallucinate. We talked about assessing your team. When you're swapping out jugs, or bite bottles, whatever they're eating or drinking. Did they drink? Did they eat? Are you getting trash out of the boat that shows that they're eating? If they're not, then you need to have a conversation with them and talk about, I need you to eat, you need to drink, and they may say, everything I try to eat, just tastes horrible. And it's like, okay, well, what are you eating? And they may say, well, I'm only eating potato chips. And it's like, okay, well, you know what? You have this. Try eating this. And because as they get further down the river, they're just not thinking as much. So, give them suggestions. And I remember one year Jay was not eating, and he said everything tasted horrible. And I said, hey, have you tried your fruit cup? He goes, oh, I forgot I had fruit cups. This was back before when they had to take all of their food with them. And we could just do water and ice. So I was like, hey, I haven't seen any trash come out of your fruit cups. He goes, oh yeah, I forgot I had fruit cups. He goes, that sounds great, And so then he was able to kind of focus on that and try something different. Or because of the rule change, if say they've got an upset stomach or something, maybe they're like, hey, a ginger ale sounds really good. Could you get that for me and have it at the next location? You can do things like that to try to kind of keep it up and going. And ask them about their, are you eating, that type of thing. Children and pets as a team captain. Don't recommend it.
I don't recommend children at all.
We have a 17-year-old.
You'd be surprised how handy they are to fetch and carry stuff.
So, if you're bringing your children with you, and you're having to focus on your children and team captaining, that can be challenging. A lot of places, especially if they're younger children, early on in the race, the river gets pretty crowded. It's hot. All the kids are wanting to play and swim in the river, and then you've got these boats coming through really fast. So, if you're not going to have help, just be prepared that you're going to be, splitting your time, and make sure that the children understand that those boats, they don't stop on a dime. That they need to get out of the way, and everybody will start yelling boat, 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 and get them up out of the way.
The other thing I've had about children is we made Cassie wear a life jacket until she was like 12. I mean, and mind you, she's the best swimmer that I probably know that's not Chris Isendorf. And it was just that fact that she was small enough, and you get around places like Palmetto State Park, and they get knocked off that bridge, and that finally happened to her. I don't want to wear it, nobody else has to wear it. Until she finally got knocked off the bridge, and she goes floating around the corner. But she was safe. That's the thing. You've got to cover all of those bases if you have your kid around. And forget that, man. If you have your kid around the river, period, it's safer is better.
Right. Well, and also with the smaller children having their life jackets on, if they're out there playing, you never know when it's going to drop off, and all of a sudden they're in over their heads. In fact, last year we were at Luling, and these were teenage, 12, 13, 14. They kind of got swept around the corner, and she was freaking out, and she was safe, but she had gotten on the other side of the bank. And
she started screaming. We're walking down to do our handoff, and it's that thing of you're never supposed to swim with a person who's flailing around because it's around you too. And I'm walking up to her, but it's like, let go and float to me. No. And so finally get to her, and mom comes around downstream and we get her out there. But that family was not prepared to be in that situation.
But I will say, younger children, please have life jackets if you're gonna let them out there and swim. With pets, usually if people bring their dogs, just make sure that you're not leaving them in the vehicle, windows up or anything like that. Super hot. Make sure you keep them on a leash at all times. You never know what other dogs are gonna be around. Make sure that they are prepared kind of for that.
Well, it's keeping them hydrated because
Yeah,
they're going to be
keep them
hot.
hydrated,
They're going to be
exactly.
tired. I had someone helping us just take pictures last year, and she was sitting there too long at Cottonseed, and she was an adult, but she was like unprepared for the heat
Yeah,
and the sun.
It's
So
very, very hot down there, so just be prepared, if you're gonna have pets and children with you.
My red truck probably had about an extra 100 hours on it because Jack went on a couple of water safaris with me when I was an official, and so he sat in the truck with the air conditioner running. He kind of likes it though, because if he goes with me, he gets to eat what I eat. We eat less.
Lots of barbecue. So we have touched on the medical quite a bit, with fatigue, heat exhaustion, electrolytes, imbalance, being tired. If your team goes on a longer run this week, we've talked about doing, 6 to 8 hour run. Know what they look like at the end of that. They don't look good. They're tired, they're hot. So you need to know kind of and expect them, or that, yeah, they don't look so good. They're not all nice and fresh when they first get in, that's when they first start to practice. Make sure, we talked about this, make sure they're eating, drinking, that type of thing. Have a first aid kit yourself that you take with you. As we talked earlier, they should have a first aid kit, however they define it, but if they get banged up and they've used all of those first aid supplies, you need to have one available if they need additional first aid. When you get to Sea Drift, we do have cleanup rooms at one of the motels. The Sea Drifter, racers, team captains, you can go down there and shower, just no sleeping in the rooms, and just be time conscious as you're cleaning up in there. The second page of this sheet is a list, and it's really long, but you as a team captain, you need stuff to help you get down the river, and this covers, everything from making sure you've got enough clothes for yourself, getting in and out of the river. The racers talk about how they start smelling. Well, you start smelling as a team captain, as you are out there all day, in and out of the water, sweating, all of that. I usually go into the Buc-ee's in Gonzales and change at some point, so I'm not smelling myself. Except, actually, that is not a Buc-ee's any longer, we've heard. It's changed to
a stripe. Stripes. Yep.
So long. But, so anyway, so I guess you can go in there. Basically, be prepared. You want to have a lawn chair that you can relax in, in between handoffs. You want to have your own headlight and flashlight, because during the night, you're going to have to be preparing jugs and food. You need to be able to see. Make sure you bring food and drinks for yourself, any towels, rain gear, hats, sunglasses. A lot of the things that they have in the boat you need to bring for yourself. You're going to need sunscreen. You're going to need bug repellent. One of the best things to bring is Clorox wipes. As you're going up and down the banks, you can definitely be exposed to poison ivy. One of the things that we found out works really well, and I've walked through some gross stuff over the years, is once I get back up to the vehicle, I'll just take a Clorox wipe and just kind of wipe my legs and my arms off, and that usually really cuts down on the amount of poison ivy outbreaks that can happen. You want paper towels, toilet paper, duct tape. You just kind of never know what you're going to come up with. You yourself probably need to bring a life jacket. Well, more needed in high water years than low water years. There's been several times on handoffs, on the lower river, some of the banks are more steep. And as you're wading out into the water, you can be up to water, above or worse. I've been in up over my head, but thankfully I've had my life jacket on and it's been tied off to a rope that's been tied off to a vehicle or a tree or something.
Nothing like trolling for alligators with your wife.
Yes, I have done that off the Tyrell Bridge.
Never caught one.
I didn't catch one, thank goodness. Scissors, Leatherman, have spare jugs, tubing, in case they lose something, tube comes out. You want to be prepared to be able to handle any replacements that are needed. We talked about the ice packs. Have some type of either milk crate or laundry basket that floats. The fanoodles are awesome. You can just, cut them to whatever size you need, zip tie those to a laundry basket or milk crate, put a strap on it, put it around your neck, and that's an easy way to carry all the equipment as you're doing a handoff. So it's just right there floating. Or I have some really awesome nephews that are my workhorses, and they hold all the heavy stuff, and then I get it and put it in the boat.
Plus, you'd be walking a long ways
Yeah,
at
some-
Staples and things
yes.
like that.
With the increase of entries and having to park further away, probably one of the worst is the first official checkpoint is Staples. You could be walking a mile to a half a mile with all of that. Some people have those little collapsible little rolling carts that they'll load stuff in and carry that down. So just be prepared that you need to be walking quite a bit carrying this equipment.
A remote control game.
There you go. Then make sure that you've got some good ice chests that you're going to be, keeping their water cool, whatever other drinks, or if they're taking fruit, avocado, whatever that you're able to keep that cool. And then also ice for the ice packs. And one of my favorite things that I stole from another team captain years ago was bringing a 10-foot water hose with a spray nozzle. At some of the convenience stores along the route, they have an outside spigot that you can hook up to and use that to wash your jugs. And I will say, during the race, when you are swapping out jugs, just rinse them out with plain water. Do not use soap. If you don't get all of that soap and residue out, the racers can taste that. As you go down the race, or as they're racing, their taste buds become very sensitive. And I had heard this for the first 14 years I was involved, and then I raced the J in 2010. And the second day, I opened up, I guess, some Pringles or something to eat. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't eat these, they're so salty. And I was like, this is what y'all are talking about. And so I've experienced it, and it's amazing how quickly it can come on. So and they can taste the soap. That happened 1 year. We used water. I can't remember where that was.
Down at the state park. It's the worst water.
Yeah,
on
so
God's
make sure
green
the water that you're putting in their jugs is, water that you have bought. Don't use water from a spigot. It's not all created equal, and that can make them, if it doesn't taste right, then they won't drink, and then they'll get dehydrated. So we always use spring water. So, some people want just the regular drinking water or whatever, but we always just use spring water and try to have, buy enough at the beginning to last us throughout.
We have one of those orange 5-gallon jugs that we fill up with Austin water. We have in the bed of the truck, and it warms up during the day. So that's what we use to try and flush the spizz that my family uses. Is nasty when it gets warm, and so a little warmer water helped, instead of cold water, sometimes helps us get it out of the tubes and stuff if we rinse it right away.
Yeah.
And he wants Ozarka, always
Yeah.
Ozarka. He can tell the difference.
Yeah,
So we just buy him his orders.
Talk to your team, it's very kind of specific. Let's see, and then we talked earlier about the mesh bags for doing handoffs. There's all different size, or you can just, go buy the lingerie mesh bags if you want to do that.
But the zippers on those are
Yeah, the zippers are not super good on those. And then, like we talked about, like we do have some that have the Velcro, and then some we just hand off. Some we do have, stuck in the boat that we don't swap out for other items. But basically, there's a lot to being a team captain. Just be prepared. You can always send us an email if you have any questions. Also on the on the website, there is an FAQ section that we're always trying to add to. As we get, multiples of the same questions on email, I'll go out and update the FAQ. Yes.
It might be useful to talk a little about using the spot tracker.
Oh, yes.
The question is how to use the spot tracker to track their arrival at a checkpoint.
Okay, so each boat, like we said, has a spot tracker. The morning of the race, we turn on a specific app that you can use as a team captain. Anybody can see it, and it lists all of the boats that are in the race. You can go and choose favorites, and inside with this app, it will show you, a map of the race course, and it will show you where your boat is now. Ish. Okay. Parts of the race course, it updates very quickly, and it is pretty darn accurate. And it will give estimated arrival times. Pretty accurate on parts of the race. Some parts of the race course, not accurate at all. Like I said, from the swinging bridge down to the saltwater barrier, it's like dead zone.
And that's a combination thing. That's satellite coverage for the spot tracker, and it's also the cell service that the app is working off of. So those two things in combination can be a problem. Kristen's upbeater punch telling the story. I hate relying on the spot tracker. I'm old school. I want to know that the team that's ahead of me, Kristen started the stopwatch when they left, and I want to know the team behind me that, they waited until, the team got there. Well, she said, the spot tracker says, and this is still a race, I freely admit to this, I don't care what the spot tracker said, what did the thing say? Now, having been a team captain last year, I tell you that the accuracy on those things has improved dramatically. If it says they're going to be at Cheapside at, 4:02 in the morning, it may not be 4:02, but it's probably not, 4:15, and it's probably not 3:45. I mean, it's pretty close. And that's
except for saltwater barrier.
Yeah, and part of that is, again, the accuracy of the GPS has improved, the equipment's improved, and Jeff is always working on the specifics of how he calculates.
One of the things that happens down there is, it'll be kind of going along, and it'll look kind of like what you're expecting if you've worked with your team about kind of here's where we think we're going to be, and you've been keeping track of that. Sometimes in that section, all of a sudden it will say, like you've been expecting, them like within like 3 hours. All of a sudden it may say, well, they're not going to be here for 10 hours. You're like, what? What happened? Where are they? Well, it hasn't gotten a pinpoint recently, so it's just trying to recalculate. And then, so you're kind of freaking out, and you're like, oh my gosh, they should be coming in now, and it hasn't updated. All of a sudden, it'll update, and then it'll be like, oh, they're gonna be here in 10 minutes, and then you're like, oh, I see them. And so that's the one part.
We should get the jugs ready.
Yes, get the jug, be ready.
The other thing too is that I found helpful is you as a team captain have to look and see when did it last update.
Yeah.
So there was a point during the race last year, we knew where the girls were, but I went to look and it showed a loop in the river, on the lower river, first, second, and third place boats at that time. It showed them all located within the bend of this river. And I thought, holy crap, this is getting ready to be the tightest race in the history of the water safari. Until I realized that this team hadn't updated for 20 minutes and this one had just updated. And that's so it's close, but it's not like it's a it's not live tracking. Don't make that.
Use it as a tool, but don't totally rely on it. You need to kind of have your own notebook and keep track of, this is when they came through, this is what speed they said they were gonna go. Also, if your team, talk to them about, are they gonna sleep during the race? And if they are they going to sleep at one of the checkpoints? Or are they gonna check through and then go down to a gravel bar where it's more quiet and they're gonna take a 2-hour nap? Then you need to calculate that in. And, or nowadays, I guess they could call and say, hey, you know, we're pulling over for a couple hours, you know, we're gonna be delayed coming into.
But you need to have that communication.
Yeah, you need to, they kind of know what their sleep plan is, where they're gonna sleep. If they're sleeping there, you know, where you have direct access to them, or are they gonna move on down? An example is, at Gonzales Gravel Bar, Saturday night, it's a party. That would not be the optimal place to pull over and try to sleep. Or like at Palmetto, that also can get kind of loud. You know, they may say, okay, we're gonna do our handoff at Palmetto, and we know that there's a gravel bar a couple of miles down, and we're gonna pull over and sleep there. So just, you know, have that conversation with them.
I recall a time in Gonzales that I was an official, people are trying to sleep, and somebody's truck got stuck. Now, you're on slick gravel with a 4-wheel drive truck trying to get unstuck while people are trying to sleep. You know, who loses there? The people trying to sleep. So probably needs to be one of those things where if you are going to sleep, number one, make sure you communicated that with your captain so they're not flipped out. And number two, you know, I wouldn't sleep at a checkpoint personally.
Right, so when we went in 2010, we did the handoff at Gonzales, and then we went down and pulled off, and we told our, you know, team captain, we were gonna, because that was before we had all of this technology. Any other questions? I guess we can just open it up now for any last.
And maybe Kristin touched on this while I was outside. The most dangerous job in this race is being a team captain. Because as racers, if you're in the top boat, maybe you hit 10 miles an hour a couple of times. You know, maybe you're going to go swimming and, you know, get mushed up between a boat and a log or something. I guess you could drown. That would be pretty bad. But, well, that means you came out of the wrong side of the boat.
Well, that was why the handoff.
But that's true. I did that. We smeared her across a log during a handoff. But your team captains have not slept probably as much as you haven't. And, you know, they're in 8,000-pound vehicles driving 70 miles an hour down what are pretty back roads. You know, those of you who have driven from Victoria or Bloomington down to Seadrift, I mean, that is the hog highway. You know, and there have been several accidents down through there. So, as team captains, you have to be aware of what's happening because you're not the most alert either. You know, they keep showing more and more studies that show fatigue causes accidents almost at the rate of alcohol. So, you know, just bear that in mind. Okay. So now you have 8 minutes or 7 minutes and 45 seconds. You can ask us any question you want, and I'll pontificate on one answer for the entire time so we can.
We'll make him go faster.
Yeah.
So, anyone with Jay, I have a question. I'm a little murky on the medical assistance part. You said they have
The question is about medical assistance.
I have a first aid kit too. I can replenish the first aid kit?
It's medical supplies.
Okay. But I can't add new things to the first aid kit unless it's prescription drugs, whatever. I mean,
It's a pretty, I mean, I'll fully admit, it's a murky area. But the idea is, if, you know, Bob and I are paddling, and I've got a big cut on my arm, and I've used up all the supplies we have in the boat, all of the whatever, and we plan to keep going. You as a team captain can do whatever to get us the supplies to keep that wound from becoming, you know, something. And I'm not joking about this. We'll use the S. There's stuff in this water that's gonna cause infections. In the 1996 race, I nicked my hand at the Victoria boat ramp, and the water was so low that by the time we got to loop 175, I had pus coming out of the cuts. I mean, it was just, the water was that filthy.
Okay, spirit of the law.
Spirit of the-
The intent is to try to fix something or give people something that's required by a doctor or prescription, not to give just a Band-Aid or something, that sort of thing. It's something that would not go out of the race or be significant enough.
Right.
We don't want to say, no, you can't have a film with someone that died in the race because we didn't allow something to happen.
Any other questions?
Folks that we used to provide a valuable driving guide to life.
Yes.
Okay,
It's on the website.
Yeah, the driving guide is on the website. You know, it's also one of those things, there's enough construction happening that we try to get any updates to that. Oh, that's okay. I thought you were going to ask me a question. Yeah, he was just asking why did he say there's access? It's in the guide.
Yes.
Does Google Maps work with all the checkpoints?
Pretty close. It doesn't, the only one that you probably couldn't use Google Maps definitely to get to, unless you really know how to put a pin in something. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Is saltwater barrier. And that's because it's off the main road, you know, through several gates and everything. But as far as, you know, Staples, you know, it's going to get you there. All of the major highway intersections is going to get you there.
Now, saltwater barrier is the one handoff that you will not have access to, well, in Swinging Bridge, but that you can't get to except during the race, because it's GVRA property, and we don't have access to it except for the checkpoint during the race.
And
So it's not something you can go to beforehand to check it out.
but there's two choices at that point. Either there's the boat ramp, or there's at the actual barrier, depending on if there's a police or not.
And there's, you guys put out signs.
And we
Yeah,
would-
there's signs of where to turn and
Yeah,
everything,
that
but it's
would
not
make
something
sense.
you can really go and check out beforehand.
Now, I would say Swinging Bridge.
Oh, that's
is-
on probably the Sunday after the prelim, should have that open for access for paddlers to take in, or to put in and paddle down, and you as a team captain can go down and see that. I think there was a question.
Yeah, as far as handoffs are concerned, are team captains allowed to grab stuff out of the boat, or grab the boat, or is it?
You as a team captain can hold the boat to assist yourself in doing the handoff. You cannot keep a hold of the boat for the racers to do something like if they're pulling over to put their light on, you cannot hold the boat from floating away while they're putting their light on.
But boy, you could sure take your time getting trash of it.
Yeah.
But once you touch something, it has to come out of the boat. So don't accidentally grab a paddle. Don't make sure if you're pulling one of these back out that it is the old food, that it's not like one of their supply mesh bags or something, which should be attached to the boat. Just be careful of what you're taking out. Make sure it's either the used jugs, trash, or the ice packs.
You know, a good team captain does some things that are really subtle during the race. The craziest thing I've ever seen is right over here at Luling Dam, and I'm not going to name any names, but the guy who was paddling basically dropped his boat off the dam. His team captain was smart enough to reach up, grab a hold of his water jug, and as he pulled the water jug out of the boat, it just so magically floated right back up to where he was standing.
There's a tendency sometimes to forget. Sometimes I've seen people get out of the boat and they're holding the boat and they're paddling. They pretend to want to hand that to the team captain. So you need to be aware of what the rules are, because they're not thinking they're tired. They're not trying to cheat, but it's just they don't have another hand to do what they need to do with the boat. They don't want to hand you the paddle or something. Just say nope. Just back off.
And someone
And the reason is because
asks-
what I usually do when I see this, if it's something minor, I don't just say, okay, you're out of the race. I wait till the people go on, and then I tell the team captain, you can't do that because your competitors here are going to bring it to me, and then we're going to have to rule on it. We wouldn't disqualify you probably for just that kind of thing, but The team captains need to be aware of what the rules are, because if people are tired and they're not thinking about it.
And we did have a question on Facebook about that, like, if you take something out of the boat, can you put it back in, like a paddle? And like last year at Rio Vista, when a boat turned over and their paddle floated away, they were going for it, but some kid was in the river and he picked it up.
That was a different situation.
Right, but so that's the thing, it's just like, not everybody's paying attention.
Again, we're back
Right.
to the spirit of the law.
Yes.
As the gentleman said, not the letter of the law. Basically, our idea of enforcing rules is we want everyone to finish the race within the rules. I mean,
We're not trying to get rid of it.
I can't think of a specific case where we've actually disqualified somebody.
Just outright. We've had penalties
You
associated
know,
with the
there's
rule
been,
infraction.
and of course, as the race has grown, there have been more penalties. But I can't think of any situation where somebody's done something, and I really say that it happens actually, but that somebody did something egregious enough that we have to disqualify.
Anything else?
All right, well, guys, registration's open, so, you know, send your dollars and cents.
We're
Other
always
than that,
available for questions.
we're available for questions.
Again, thank you for watching this 2020 Safari Seminar here in Luling, Texas. These videos will be archived on the Facebook page so that everyone can go back and watch them later. Thanks for tuning in.